Welcome. Hi, g'day, and kia ora, as we like to say down under. Welcome to the Imaginations DIY channel. Today is all about the powder room. So, let's take a look.
The bathroom itself that we'll be looking at today is a half bath, so vanity, toilet, and size-wise it's 91 by 51 inches, so just over 8 feet, no, nearly 8 feet and just over 4 feet, so nearly 8 by 4 wide. And it was, I have absolutely no idea how long ago it was decorated.
But I think it's safe to say it's been a while. So let's have a quick look at what we started with. Firstly, the toilet. Apart from being really dated, it was not dual flush. Additionally, it was leaking at the bottom and the floorboards underneath were damp. So they'll have to be reviewed and possibly addressed when we do the major ground floor renovation. On to issue number 2, wallpaper. Now don't get me wrong, I don't hate wallpaper, but this application of it has numerous issues. The reason that it is bubbling in places and showing different aspects of the wall behind it may be just that it is so old, but the wall itself is actually really solid wood panels, and as we pulled off the wallpaper we could see how they had actually tried to counter the panelled appearance by taping over the grooves or joins and then wallpapering over that, and it was not successful. You can definitely see that as part of what you see there. And in addition to the gorgeous colour, what can I say? Let me highlight the main focus of interesting decor, the elephant in the room, so to speak. Check it out, up around the top. Yep, you're seeing right. Not one, not two, but a whole lot of elephants. I mean, seriously, who wants an elephant watching them pee? It's just wrong. Then we have the vanity, which at some point in time was probably the latest cool thing with its geometric sink, but it's now decrepit. The drawers get stuck on opening, the cupboards themselves are basically falling apart, and they're so disgusting on the inside that I just didn't want to put anything in them. So with the function of storage being non-existent, that's ready to go. And the next thing on the list is asbestos under the tiles. Of course there is. So nothing obviously there that we're going to touch, but something to be well aware of and to keep away from. I got some good photos of this when the vanity came out because there was a build-up of different flooring from over time. So when the future renovation happens, so everyone's on the same page, this picture will hopefully help them out and show what needs addressing without having to dig too deep. The final item on my issues list comes back to age. Everything was visually and functionally dated. Looking at the fixtures and fittings there, you'll see a lot of gold. And acknowledging that gold is back in vogue, as they say, the style of fittings is not. You'll notice that there were sconces on the wall. I do want sconces, but again, something with a little bit more up-to-date styling. So with those issues in mind, let's get on with the fun part, the makeover. I'll walk through the fixtures and fittings choices, show you through how it looked at various stages, share some of the good and not so good choices made, and the headaches they caused, and then of course show you the final product, which I have to say we really are happy with. It was all worth it. It's like night and day from where we started, both functionally and cosmetically. This half bath will not be here in the longer term. The objective is to move it and open up the ground floor more, but with the new way of life that has come to pass over the last 18 months, the necessity to have this as a fully functioning and at least pleasant to be in room became a priority. So I decided to have a go at DIY. I have a background in product design and project management, so I found myself turning the powder room into my own project. After moving into this house, one of my first decisions was that I wanted functioning toilets that were water smart. So the first item on my decision list really was that, and was made pre-remodel. I had found the perfect toilet for me on Amazon. It checked all the boxes for style, function, and importantly, price. You may say, wait, it's not a brand name. And my answer to that is no, it's not. But the ones it replaced were, and the new ones offered much better value for money than acquiring the modern day counterparts of what was already there. I'll add the link below so you can see what I mean if you happen to be toilet shopping at any time in the future. I did note, however, when looking at this recently, the prices have gone up. But as I'm sure everyone out there who is remodeling has seen, that seems to be an across-the-board effect of COVID at the moment and issues with supply chains. The toilets have actually been in for coming on 8 to 10 months now, and they're fantastic. And I've had so much good feedback about the style of them. With the toilet as the founding fixture already in place, the makeover could officially begin with sorting out the vanity. I'd been collating house idea books for the large renovation, so I used my house powder room idea book as the source for my designing and went from there. As you can see from my house idea book, I wanted a floating vanity for the future powder room, but these are not the most economical type, so with this room ultimately being relocated, I did start off going down a different track with a lower cost vanity from Amazon. However, after it arrived with the ceramic top shattered in multiple places and a 4-week turnaround for a replacement, I took that as a sign that I should bite the bullet and invest in one that fitted with the style I really wanted. I started by selecting the one in my house idea book that was my favourite, and from there I used that image in an image search to come back with the various options online that were similar, and I was really happy to find this one here, which is pretty close, and lucky enough it was on sale. To go with the vanity, I was able to locate a really cost-effective motion-activated sensor faucet on Amazon, a nice little hygienic bonus for our guests. Next decision was the lighting, and this was pretty easy for me because I really like the cone shape sconces at the moment, and I was able to find a sconce that was under $30, so it matched exactly what I was looking for price-wise, and it happened to be matte black, which again was the other match. So that was it. On to the next, the mirror. Now, one would think that selecting a mirror would be easy because there are so many options out there, but the key for me was actually the frame and the actual material the frame was made of. So once I found a gold one, then I had to actually make sure that the frame wasn't some sort of plastic that was painted. So I found this one on Wayfair, and that was actually a really good style. When you looked at the frame materials, it was a beautiful brushed alloy, and sitting at just over $100, that was a really, really good buy. With the central visual elements all selected, it was onto the walls, which had to be made lighter and brighter. If you remember, the original was very dark and pretty formal. I just wanted something light and fresh and a bit more casual that didn't get me down every time I walked in there. I love textures, so with that in mind and not wanting to just paint, I dug into some research. I read a lot of reviews and eventually stumbled across a, would you believe, peel and stick vinyl on Amazon. Big thanks to everyone out there who adds reviews and photos. I took inspiration from a couple of photos where people had decorated the front of their bar with this vinyl and they'd used a herringbone pattern. It jumped out at me and everything sort of went from there. After deciding on that vinyl, I made a quick search to make sure it wasn't cheaper elsewhere, and sure enough, it was. I think this is actually the first item I've found on Amazon that turned out to be a better price elsewhere. I'll add a link below to both so you can see. The room has a single air duct on the wall. You can see it immediately from the doorway, so the cover needed to complement the new styling of the room. I fell in love with a simple linear design, which is made in the US by a company called Vent Covers Unlimited. They do have a 5-week lead time, but boy was it worth the wait. The cover is a solid, chunky steel, and on inspecting it, I can see the quality of the workmanship. It's that good. Who would have thought a vent cover could be considered a style element? Well, not me, but this one sure is. Totally adds to the contemporary vibe I was going for and classes up that wall no end. At this point I had the infrastructure components needed to move forward, and I knew conceptually what I wanted for the remaining fittings, so I decided to defer any purchasing of those until I was further down the track and had a better understanding of any spatial limitations. For a brief change in pace, I'm going to hand over to my little helper and let her tell you in her words how we started off the work in this room.
Okay, hello everyone. So today we are doing a before and after because we have to redo our walls because they look gross in our bathroom. So
Show the lights in the mirror.
So
Everything.
the mirror, the mirror's right there. This is the lights. And this is you guys. Okay, so we're going to be doing a before and after, and you are just going to watch me do the walls. And I'm pretty much going to do the walls.
What's the step one?
So step one is we need to sponge the walls off because they're so dirty. And then we are going to sand it down, and then we have to, like, prime it. And then we can start painting the walls. I'm going to actually change this to fast mode so you guys feel like it's like 1 second, okay?
The steps referred to there were in relation to the walls on which we'd be installing the peel and stick tile. The sanding was because we'd partially stripped some of the wallpaper prior to realising we could just tile over it. Ugh. So for the walls we ultimately tiled, we just had to clean then prime. The walls to be painted, however, needed to have the wallpaper removed and then have the existing attempt at flattening out the panels behind the wallpaper fixed somehow. This was where we learned our first big lesson. We had fully stripped off wall number 3 before getting input from a friend who was a handyman, and his recommendation on the easiest way to smooth out the surface was actually to add a thin layer of drywall. Ugh. Lesson learned. Get his opinion before removing wallpaper. While my little helper had that side of the wall occupied, I took the opportunity to lay out some planks and have a play around with testing out some patterns. I was more focused on practicing the herringbone layout and also doing some practice cutting of the tiles just with some extra heavy duty scissors that I had got from Home Depot. Once I was confident with the pattern and the cutting, I jumped straight into it because it seemed that it was going to be pretty easy to peel it off if I screwed it up. And sure enough I did, and sure enough it was. As you can see, only one wall ended up being fully done with the geometric styling of the pattern, and the reason for that was as I saw it laying out, I was concerned that if I did them all like that, then they would detract in total from the effect that the main wall would have. So I switched it up and I started stacking vertically. Once the walls were mostly done, we were able to install the new vanity and the faucet, followed by the sconces. Once they were in place, it all came down to the final little cleanups to make it all look good. These being the trims, doing the top coat of paint on the wall and window, and then removing the paint from the places it shouldn't have ended up. it was at that point that I blew scope a little and turned my attention to the floors. Even after a thorough scraping with a blade and the use of grout cleaner, the tiles were still not where I wanted them cosmetically. The grout lines made them look dirty, and the veining in them was slightly more brown than anything in the room. So after doing a bit of research online, I came up with two options. The first was to fully paint out the tiles, and the second was to paint a pattern on the tiles. You've probably seen a lot of those beautiful painted tile photos that replicate the cement tile look. That's what gave me the initial inspiration. I went back and forth between these two options for a while, as although my preference was to leave a pattern, I was concerned that the walls already having a pattern tile would detract from that. So after a bit of thought, I decided to prototype a compromise. Sticking with an all-white design, I started taping up the tiles with painter's tape in a cut-out diamond shape. The idea being that the original tile colour and the veining would be where the painter's tape was put. I would have preferred to make the diamonds bigger than you see here, so they were in a better scale with the walls. However, to fully cover the grout lines while keeping the painted lines symmetrical, that wasn't an option. I started off by doing only a few and letting them dry and checking out the effect. Once I saw that the idea was actually working, I went forward with the full floor. The directions for the paint indicate one layer, however I ended up doing 2 layers of the white and 1 of the clear matte sealer. Although the tile painting worked, I have days when I think it looks awesome, and others when I feel that it is competing with the tiled walls. The good news is I always have the option, and extra paint, to fully paint the floor white. So after a period, if I'm still having doubts about the floor detracting from the wall, I can fully paint it out. Putting that question aside, it's time to move on with the styling and show you the final result. Yeah, not that one. How about this one? Let me know what you think of how it turned out in the comments below. And if you'd like to see how the rest of the rooms in the remodel turn out, subscribe to the channel and you'll be notified each time I put out a new video. Currently in the works are dining room, porch and kitchen, then following these will be office, living room, and that's all building up to the biggest one, the basement. Take care. See you soon. Bye.